Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So today I want to talk about how just getting your first real estate deal opens your mind to all the possibilities. So for me, when I first started off investing, I just had a very simple goal of just wanting to buy a house just for me to live in, if I'm being honest. And I remember I was 27 years old. This was 4 years out of pharmacy school, and I just paying off $250,000 of student debt. And I was living at home with my mom, and I was 27. Wanted to start dating girls more seriously, and wanted my own privacy. It's hard to have growth, if I'm being honest, when you're living at home, because you're not forced to grow because you're just defaulting to how you were back when you were in high school, back to how when you're a kid, and your parents, with very good intentions, they always will see you as a kid, right? No matter how old you are, you could be 27, you could be 30, 35. Your parents will always see you as a little boy, that little girl that was running around where they would change your diapers, and they treat you that way. So, and like I said, great intentions and all. So it's not the greatest place for growth, but I leveraged it living at home to be able to pay off my student debt, to be able to save up for a down payment on a house. So I had a clear objective as to why I was living at home. I wasn't just living at home for my convenience. I had the objective of I'm gonna save money so I can wipe off my student debt. I'm gonna save money so I can buy my first house. And that's all I knew. Like, I never would have guessed like buying that first home would trigger me to at one point owning 90 units of real estate, for like 5 years later, back in 2022, back when I owned 90 units of real estate and I owned my mobile home park. So I never would have guessed that first deal would have snowballed like that. I was just singularly focused on saving that $8,000 so I could put 10% down on a house. That's it. And I wanted a 4 or 5 bedroom house because if I had more bedrooms, I can rent out those bedrooms, which is house hacking. And I didn't know it was house hacking at the time. Back in 2017, I didn't listen to Bigger Pockets. I didn't listen to YouTube. The only thing I listened on YouTube was how to dress better because I was trying to learn to dress better to get girls and to make myself more presentable. And yeah, I remember it was like Alpha M or Teaching Men's Fashion, like one of those two channels, like way back. That's all I watched YouTube for, to be honest. I watched YouTube for music and for how to dress as a guy. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm gonna save it for my down payment. So, I didn't even watch YouTube for like how to buy a house. I literally just like went up to my, I was fortunate to have an aunt who's a loan officer, just said, hey, I saved up $8,000. How much house can I afford? And I remember she just asked for my bank statements and my pay stubs, and my credit score was great, and my bank accounts and all that. She's like, oh yeah, you could afford $800,000 or house. So I was like, perfect, with 10% down, and these are the interest rates today, which is around like 4%. So I said, okay, great. So I started looking at homes and stumbled across, live in more California, because I it was the most it was my price range of $800,000. It wasn't too bad, and then it wasn't too far from where I grew up in like Milpitas, San Jose area. So I was like, great. And I remember I went to a few open houses every weekend, made a couple offers, and then I eventually got my first deal, which is the deal I own still today, back to 17, where I bought it for 800,000. I put 10% down, and I remember I lived in a master, and I rented out the 3 other bedrooms. So it was a 4 bedroom, 3.5 bath house. The master, I had my own bathroom in the master, and the master bedroom is huge. Then I had 1 bedroom with its own private bath, and then 2 other bedrooms would share 1 bathroom. And I remember I'd rent out each room for like $1,000 each, so that's $3,000. And I remember I just wanted the mentality of like, oh, this is like my quote unquote forever home. So I just want to it doesn't make sense for me to live here all by myself. Like, I got what I wanted. I got my own place away from not living at home anymore, and I have tenants here who are help subsidizing my mortgage, so that one day when I have kids and I have a family, or I just want the house to myself, I can move out these tenants and then just live in the house myself. That was purely my intention, right? And I didn't know, but what happened was I got a job opportunity near San Francisco. So then I ended up getting a job in San Francisco, and then I was like, well, I can't make this commute, it's too long. So I ended up saying, okay, well, I'm just gonna do what I did last time, and I'm gonna look for houses and put 10% down. And luckily I had a relative who lived in San Francisco, and she knew the area pretty well. So I would just meet with her every weekend with my mom, and we would go see open houses to see different pockets of San Francisco. And some are really nice, some are really rough, and ended up finding something on the border of San Francisco and Daly City. And what's beautiful about this is it's kind of like a makeshift duplex where there's a lower unit and an upper unit, and the lower unit had a separate entrance and a little kitchenette, and the upper unit had a full kitchen. So once again, I basically got it 10% down. My aunt did my loan, and basically I was able to rent out the lower unit for $2,800 a month, and the upper unit, I think each room was like $1,200. So I got like $5,400 a month in rental income, and I rented out my last house at a loss. So I think I was not renting by the room anymore. I rented out to a long-term tenant, and I was losing like $500 a month, but I was okay with that because I worked at W2 and I was house hacking my new house. So I was only spending like, I think 1,000, maybe $1,500 to live in the house. But if you factor in the 500 loss on top of that, I was probably spending $2,000 to live. But I was just like, hey, that's not bad. I'm spending $2,000 a month, and I own two properties, right? And I was working as a pharmacy director. And I was like, okay, this is cool, right? Like I can sustain this. And then I was like, no, I own two properties. And then I was just like, like maybe this is like really scalable. So I was just thinking, okay, now, I wanted to like relocate to Southern California. After my mom passed, unfortunately, I kind of felt like I wasn't tied down to the Bay Area anymore. Even though my dad still lives in the Bay Area, my parents are split. And my mom passed away like pretty early at 60. And I just didn't feel as tied, and I just felt like I wanted like a new environment. Because like for me, I always like to throw myself in new environments because it forces me to grow, it forces me to develop. And I just always knew that, hey, I'm gonna move to, Southern California to, chase Christine, who's now my wife. So it worked out for me. But I just remember that I thinking to myself, like, you know what? Like, I just want to move to SoCal, give it a try. I'll just like rent a house, rent an apartment, live by myself. So, I think I was kind of like over house hacking at that point because I wanted privacy. I wanted to seriously date, and I wanted to change the scenery, right? Like, I worked hard. I grinded from 23 to 30. I've been house hacking for like all my life, whether I was renting an apartment with a roommate, or, I was house hacking the properties I owned, or I was living at home. So I just remember thinking, like, you know what? I want to change the scenery. Want to go to SoCal. Thought girls in SoCal were more attractive compared to the Bay Area, in my opinion. And I just want to change the scenery. And just like, in my mind, I was like, you know what? I want to go to SoCal, give it a try. Stay there for 2 years, 3 years. If I don't like it, I can always go back to the Bay Area. Because I knew that in the Bay Area, there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of opportunities. I always have my I can stay with my dad, right? I have two rentals there that I rented out, but I could always move back, stay with my dad until, I find a job. And then based on where that job is, I can either live at home with my dad temporarily, or I just can move out one of my tenants and then move into that property that I own. So I knew I had always options. I knew I could always go back home, right? So I took that risk in moving to SoCal because I felt like I would regret not trying, right? Not trying to chase Christine worked out for me. But even if it didn't work out, I knew that, okay, there's like a change of scenery. There's, what's the saying, a lot of fish in the sea. So like if Christine didn't work out, there's other options potentially, right? So for me, I just really wanted to be in a new environment. And in that new environment, that's when I exponentially grew. Like that's when I was long distance, because I was like, wait, I'm managing my rentals from Southern California, and these rentals are like 400 miles away, and I'm managing it myself without much issues. Like if there's a problem, I send my handyman. If there's a vacancy, I have to leverage my dad to like go there to show the properties, but I can screen the tenants and talk to the tenants like remotely before that even happens, right? I just need my dad to be there to open the doors to show the tenants, and that's it. So I was like, I can manage these rentals remotely, and ended up buying another house hack in Southern California, but decided not to move into there because I got laid off from my job and had to move to LA. I went from Orange County to like LA, and then was renting in Santa Monica for a bit until I'm in my current house. So it just naturally progressed. Like I remember, like, okay, when I was here, I was like, you know what, I can manage rentals from afar. And then I was just like, well, if I'm managing my rentals 400 miles away in California, I can go outside of California. And that's when I discovered Huntsville, Alabama, and I bought a new construction in Huntsville for, about 260, and it rents for 2,000, and locked in a 3% interest rate and had property management. And I bought this property sight and scene. I'd never even been to Alabama, and I was just like, huh, like it opened my mindset once again. So I was like, you know what, like how can this be scalable? Like I just don't always want to buy one single family home, and then that's when I progressed into multifamily. And how I went to multifamily was a lot of my single family homes appreciate over time, especially during COVID. I did a cash out refinance, stripped out my equity tax free, and then used that money to go buy my 26 unit apartment complex. And what blew my mind was I got my 26 unit apartment complex for $500,000. And all my single family homes I bought were 800, 1.1 million, and 800. So I was like, wait, I could buy an apartment, a 26 unit apartment complex that can rent for like $700 a month per door times 26 units, which is like almost like $16,000, $17,000. And I only put 50,000. It's only $500,000. Like $500,000 gets me, doesn't even get me a condo in the Bay Area. It doesn't even get me anything well, it might get me a condo in Los Angeles. But that's crazy to me. I was just like, how is this possible? So I got like my 26 unit for $500,000, and I got my 20 unit for $350K. And once again, like nothing is this cheap here. So I was like, this is my cash flow properties, and I can force appreciation on these deals. So that's when I was just like, as you can see from my journey, like it literally went from just me wanting to buy a house for me to live in because I just didn't want to live at home. And then I bought that house, and then I rented out the rooms with the intention of, I'm going to live here for the rest of my life. So I decorated really nicely, nice furniture. And it was fully furnished for like my future kids, my future family. I was ready. And then I was like, well, when I'm ready for that, have a girlfriend that lives with me or whatever, I can move out the tenants to get more privacy. So maybe like instead of having 3 tenants, I can maybe have like 1 tenant or 2 tenants, and it will help subsidize the cost of my unit. So like if a tenant were to like leave, then I just wouldn't like fill that spot. That was kind of my intention. But then I ended up getting a new job somewhere else because I was ambitious in my W-2, and ended up moving. So like, and I did that multiple times. So it was a weird combination of me just job hopping a lot, and then every time I job hopped, I just would buy a new property around there, and I just would save it for 10% down. And one thing led to the next. I was like, whoa, I can really scale this, and in 2020. Or 2019. That's when I started listening to a lot of podcasts about real estate, and really started drinking that Kool-Aid about financial freedom, about passive income. And at that point, I already had like maybe 2 or 3 rentals. So I wanted to really scale this. So that's why I did a cash out refinance and bought a bunch of multifamily. So like one little action of me just saving 10% down, buying my first single family home, snowballed into me buying value add multifamily real estate like 4 years later. So I never would have thought I was going to go there. And I bought a mobile home park at one point. Like who would have thought I would own a mobile home park? I didn't even know about mobile home parks. Like honestly, I didn't know much about mobile home parks at all. I didn't even know they existed, right? Like once I started investing, I was like, oh, these are mobile home parks. And so one little action, that's all it takes. So like why I'm sharing this is because, for those of you following my journey, like it can seem very intimidating. Like, damn, he's at 52 units. That's impossible for me to get to. But it just started with one unit. Just get that first unit. Whether it's a house hack. Like if I were to do it, if I could do it over, I would love if my market had 4plexes. I'd buy 1 4plex every 2 years. Save up 10% for a 4plex. Live in 1 unit yourself. Rent out the other 3 units are rented out. After 2 years, save up another 10%. Buy another 4plex. Rent out the unit you used to live in, and then house hack that one. And then do that every 2 years. You can get 10 loans like that. That's 40 units. And all you do is every 2 years you save 10% and put 10% down. And then eventually over time, if you're getting positive cash flow from your rentals, it helps save your down payment faster and faster and faster. So it gets easier and easier and easier. The hardest thing is getting your first deal, right? Getting your first deal, and then it snowballs to your second deal, your third deal, and all of a sudden you're buying apartments. So it just took that one deal. And like I said, I never thought I was going to be this many units and be this into the FIRE movement and built my certain net worth right now. But I just started with that one deal. And like I said, I didn't think much of it. I just thought like, oh, I just want a place to live because I don't want to live at home anymore. It was that simple. That's it. And I was just like, wow, I did it once, I can do it again. I did it again, maybe I can do it out of state. I did it out of state. Now I can maybe try it with like apartments. And I did that out of state. So now I basically know that I can do anything I set your mind to, right? And you never know where it leads me next. Like I still want to continue buying, you know, in the areas that I bought, like California. I want to buy in Huntsville, Alabama. I want to buy in Oklahoma City. Because those are three areas where I have a team in place, I have a foothold in place, and that's my unfair advantage. So that's really what it is. It just starts off like one rental. So the message I want you guys to convey is just get that 10% down for your first house that you want to buy. That's it. 10% down, first house you want to buy. If your market is $500,000, $50,000 is what you need, right? Just start there. Keep it really simple for yourself. So anyways, hopefully you found value from this video. If you want to buy your first multifamily deal with some coaching, some guidance, click on my link tree down below. From there, you can see links to my coaching, my courses, as well as you can send me an email if you have any questions or you want a discount code. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.